Welcome to Extraordinary Women on thatchannel.com. I'm your host, Shannon Skinner. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Farah Perelmuter, who is the CEO and co-founder of Speaker Spotlight. She is here today to talk about how to be a successful entrepreneur. And later in the segment, before we take a break, I'll have our regular Good to Know Minute when I ask my guests for their top tip on creating a successful life, and you will hear Farah's. Farah, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
It's really great to have you here.
Great to be here.
I remember, of course, you are the co-founder and CEO of Speaker Spotlight, which has been around for a number of years and a hugely successful business.
Thank you.
And I remember years ago when I first heard of you and what you were doing, and I had just started my career in public relations. And I was at an event of yours, I believe it was your showcase, and I had just read in the, it was either the Globe and Mail, the Toronto Star, this feature on this young woman who quit her job in advertising along with her husband and started this business, and you came out on stage and you introduced your speakers and you looked so glamorous and so happy, and I thought, wow. And you were surrounded by so many interesting people. I thought, wow, this woman has a fantastic job.
Well, what I love most about that story, you talked about how we quit our jobs. I was in advertising, my husband was a lawyer. We were surrounded by the most extraordinary people in the world. We represented them. But really what I love most about that story is that you thought I looked glamorous. So thank you. Yeah, that was one of our showcases. We started doing these huge fundraisers right from the beginning. And at our showcases, we have a number of our leading speakers do their thing. They speak to over 400 of our clients, and they donate their time, and we ask for voluntary donations and donate 100% of those funds to a charity. So I remember our first one. Can I just tell you what happened at our first one?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, so this was early on, like maybe our second year of business, and we basically really had no clients at the time, but we thought, okay, we need to give back to the community, we need to do some good work. So we thought we're going to have a showcase. So of course, we had no idea what we were doing. What we did is we had 3 different sessions, 4 speakers per session. So a total of 12 speakers throughout the day. We made these great-looking invitations. We sent them out, and we waited. 2 weeks before the event happened, we realized, to our horror, we had more speakers coming than clients. And it was really scary. Like, we didn't know what we were doing. We had no clients. It was a bad sign that we had more speakers lined up than clients registered for the event. So, of course, we just felt like forgetting the whole thing. This is way too scary. We don't know what we're doing. We were 2 young kids with no business experience. We had no clients, no staff, no money, nothing. But one of our speakers said, we cannot give up. We had to take the risk. We had to do whatever we could to pull it off. So I put my advertising and PR hat on. I started doing whatever I could. I started generating media. I actually stood on the corner of a downtown busy intersection and gave out the flyers to whoever was walking by. I went to classes and I talked to students about the importance of inspiration and motivation and learning, and I brought in schools and I did whatever I could, and we eventually made a huge success with tons of media coverage. So sometimes entrepreneurs just have to take a huge risk even though it seems daunting and impossible, and we pulled it off.
And what really sparked you to start a speakers bureau? I mean, here you were in advertising, a background in marketing.
Well, my uncle approached me telling me he wanted to be a speaker, and he asked me if I'd work on his promotion materials, and I said, absolutely, I would love to, but what's a speaker? I had never seen a speaker in my life, so I thought I'd do a bit of research. That research ended up taking a year, and then I thought I really just want to quit my job and start a speakers bureau, and then my husband eventually quit law to help me, and then it all began.
And then the story unfolded.
That's right.
And of course, there's a lot of legends that have been created that you speak of, and actually we're going to touch on a few of those later in the show. But on your website is a quote: "A speech may last for 60 minutes. Its impact can last forever." So I'd like to ask you, can a speech really change the world?
You know what? I truly believe a speech can. The reason I believe it is because well, it's affected me. It's changed my whole life. But I've watched the audience. I've listened to attendees. I've received feedback that I just cannot believe. I'll tell you one case in point. We work and represent Margaret Trudeau. We've been working with her since our early days when there's just the two of us in our apartment in a little tiny room sharing the phone. And I remember she called, and I couldn't believe it was Margaret Trudeau. And she really took a chance on us because back then we really had nothing. So over the last 15 years, we've been working with her. And a couple of weeks ago, we launched her newest book called Changing My Mind, which is now a bestseller. Just finished it last night. Phenomenal read. But when we book Margaret, I listen to her talk, which is all about mental health and wellness. And she talks about dealing with bipolar. And I watch the audience, and I watch them react to what she's saying, and I watch them fill up with tears and talk to her afterwards and tell her how she has changed their life. So that's on a personal level. Then we work with the world's leading business experts, and I see the aha moments, like what Oprah talks about, and I see how they write notes frantically when they're learning something from a speaker. And then we talk to their HR person, and they tell us afterwards how the company has implemented what they've learned from these speakers, and they track the progress. And it actually does result in bottom line results. So from our speakers, audiences learn, they become inspired. There's huge benefits, both personal, professional. It affects one's family, one's life. It could have a profound effect. So it's not the actual words, but it's how the attendees decide to use those words, and the effect can be enormous.
And now you work with and represent really a lot of big names, a number of leading experts in various industries, media personalities, royalty even. And maybe can you give us an example of some of those names, some of those people that you do represent?
We work with a lot of Canadian, high-profile personalities, a lot of Americans, a lot from overseas. You can look at our website at www.speakers.ca, and you can see them all there. One person who really impacted me when I met him, who unfortunately is no longer with us, is Christopher Reeve. And we booked him, obviously, a number of years ago, but that was one person who had a huge impact on me. And I don't often get starstruck, but when I met him, I was so affected for so many weeks and months afterwards.
In what way?
Well, when I saw him in person, when you see him on TV, he was so put together with makeup, and he was already in a wheelchair when I met him and very, very sick. And then when I saw him in person, it was so heartbreaking, but his message was one about hope. And I thought, wow, if he can inspire others, and everyone in the theater, well, in this huge room, everyone was in wheelchairs. And there I was watching him talk about hope and how everyone needs hope in their lives. And it was just so impactful on me and everyone in the audience. But then, I'm so lucky to work with other incredibly motivational people like Pinball Clemens. I love. He's as amazing,
Smiles a lot.
Yeah, and he's like that in real life, He's great to work with. There are so many incredible Canadians and Americans.
Margot Kidder is on
Oh, Margot's so much fun. She's so hilarious and so down to earth. I remember calling her once on her cell phone, and she's like, hi, Farah, I'm just in my backyard gardening right now. She's so down to earth, and she flies economy, and she wins, well, I have a lot of stories. I don't know if I can tell them all, but
it's okay.
I'll tell you later.
Sarah Ferguson, too, Duchess of York.
Yeah, Sarah also is she's, great to work with. She's a lot of fun. Does a lot of good work.
Some people may not necessarily be aware of what a Speakers Bureau really does. I mean, maybe can you talk about that?
Sure. So when someone is planning an event anywhere in the world, they would call us and tell us what their theme is. And then typically we would talk to them about their objectives, who's in the audience, when it's taking place, and we would recommend 2 or 3 speakers that we think is right. Their topic may be about leadership, and there could be 1,000 speakers to talk about leadership. But we really know our speakers. We understand their strengths, their differences, who they've spoken to in the in the past what makes them the right speaker for each group. So sometimes a speaker may seem perfect, but we know that they're not. So we know which is the right fit, and that's what it's all about. And also we have access to these people, whereas a meeting planner probably doesn't. So there are many reasons to use a speaker's bureau. It would take me forever to tell you them all, but that kind of encapsulates a couple of them.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, again, you know, your roster is stellar.
Oh,
you have about
thank you.
700 speakers now. Is that right?
We do.
You started with 20.
We did. That's right.
That's
Yeah,
fascinating.
it's grown.
It's really grown. Well, in fact, you've been selected by Profit Magazine as one of Canada's 100 fastest growing companies. You yourself have been ranked as Canada's top 100 entrepreneurs. You've had a number of many other awards. GTA's Most Powerful Woman. You've been nominated as a woman who makes a difference by Toronto Fashion magazine, or sorry, Toronto Life Fashion, and the list goes on. You've been on magazine covers and international media coverage. Did you ever think that you would be in this place?
You know, I suffer from the imposter syndrome, where I think, am I totally faking it? Because it just seems a little bit unreal. And sometimes I think, I don't know what I'm doing, although I know that I do. But no, I never really thought it would. I mean, I had my vision and I had my goals, but the business is much bigger than March and I really thought it would be. And the recognition is, you know, it's wonderful, but I'm really proud of our staff. They're phenomenal. So trust me, I can't take all the credit. My husband is amazing and the staff is incredible.
So we are about to take a break, and which brings us to the Good to Know Minute, when I ask my guests for their top tip on creating a successful life, and I know you have a fantastic one.
Well, I think it's really important to be able to have a vision of where you want to go. In your mind's eye, see your future 3, 5, 10 years from now, and don't let anything get in your way.
Don't let anything get in your way. Thank you. We'll take a break, and we'll be back. Welcome back to Extraordinary Women on thatchannel.com. I'm Shannon Skinner, and I'm speaking with Farah Perelmuter. Start off this segment of the show with is your tips on being a successful entrepreneur. We touched on some of it in the first segment, but for us to sort of explore this further, you know, and as you mentioned, having a vision of where you want to go is so important. And this is something you know a lot about. The vision of where you're at really began when you were young.
It did. My friends thought I was crazy, but I figured I was a visionary. I remember I was growing up in Winnipeg, and every night before going to sleep as a teenager, I would, you know, imagine myself owning a business, and the elevator would open up onto the floor of my office, and I owned the whole floor, and I would be sitting at my glass desk, and behind me through the window I saw the CN Tower. Now the thing is, I was living in Winnipeg, so I really wanted to make this happen. So as soon as I graduated from high school, I was 17, I moved to Toronto by myself, and I was very ambitious as a little kid, and I remember going at the CN Tower, and it was evening, and I looked down at all the twinkling lights, and I figured every light was an opportunity, and I thought to myself, one day I will own the city. So
Own Toronto, I love it.
Yes, I was very ambitious. So anyway, I worked hard, and eventually I went to school at Western. I came back to Toronto, I went to school in Toronto, started Speaker Spotlight, worked really hard, and now, after, you know, a big adventure, if you went to our head office in Toronto, the elevator opens up onto my floor. You would go to my office, see me sitting at my glass desk, and behind me through the window, you can see the CN Tower.
And that's absolutely true, because I have been at your office and I have seen your glass desk and the CN Tower, and it's really fantastic. I think that's really a great story. And, you know, what I think is really interesting about you is that you actually started your businesses when you were about 9, you started to think about how you could make money, and you were in a carnival, or you would have carnivals with your friends.
Yeah, my sisters and I would have carnivals in our backyard, and we'd charge admittance, and we charged for every game. And I don't know where we got this from, but we just loved it. And then we had a little band, and I couldn't play any instruments, and I have a terrible voice, so I would dance. I'd be the dancer. We'd charge money for our neighbors to come down to our basement to see us. And then my sister and I had a little act, and we'd perform at birthday parties. But we didn't care about the money. We wanted birthday cake. That's how we got paid. So
you ate a lot of birthday cake?
We did. It was great. I would still do that now, actually. But anyway, but then when I was 16, I had my first serious business.
At 16?
Yeah, at 16. It was called Image Impact, and actually I'm very proud of it. At the time, I was working at a modeling agency, and I started in the front desk, and then I started teaching the programs, like all the classes, like runway, makeup, hair care, photography, everything. And then I started selling the programs. And I was quite good at selling them, but then after a while I felt uneasy because these girls and their parents were paying a lot of money, and they really thought they were going to become models, and I knew that they wouldn't. So I started my own program called Image Impact, and it was all about self-confidence and self-esteem, and I would teach similar things about runway photography, makeup application for teenagers, but it was all based on feeling good about yourself. And so that was my first business when I was 16. And I loved it.
And it was successful?
Yeah, it went really well.
Well, at the age of 16, that's, most 16-year-olds are not thinking about starting their own businesses.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really, you know, many of them are out finding their first jobs. But to have an entrepreneurial spirit at such a young age, you must have been born to do what you do.
Yeah, you know, I think a lot of people are, but they're not given the opportunity to shine. Why not start a babysitter agency? Have all your friends available to babysit, and you can just manage them and take a cut.
Well, that's actually a great tip.
There you go.
Now, you ate a lot of birthday cake when you were young.
I did.
And then you started your first serious business at 16. And then you tried it again, modeling company. Is that right? When you first moved to Toronto?
I tried Image Impact, and it was a total flop because I didn't understand the marketplace in Toronto. And I didn't understand that people had so many options. You know, Winnipeg is different than Toronto. It was a total flop. It was my first big business disaster. Luckily, my one and only, because soon after that, I started my job in advertising, which is short-lived, and then I started Speaker Spotlight, and that's still going strong. So my one and only business flop, and at least I didn't lose too much money on that. But, you know, it was a good lesson. You have to know your market, know your product, know a lot before you go into a venture.
And I think you've mentioned that Speaker Spotlight, in a way, was sort of founded on the idea of a modeling agency.
That's right. That's exactly right. So when I started Speaker Spotlight, the business I sort of knew was modeling and how an agency is run. So instead of selling beauty, we sold inspiration and ideas. And when I started Speaker Spotlight, it was on the business model of a modeling agency. And so that's how I sort of knew what to do. Sort of. Really, I didn't know what I was doing. We figured it out as we went.
And so going back to the notion of being clear about your vision, you didn't know really much about the speakers world when you started this. You were working in advertising. You were engaged to Martin at the time.
I was.
Your now husband.
Yes.
And
what a
somehow
bureau
could be. Where did that come from?
Well, you know what? Luckily, we had no experience, and we didn't really know too much about what our competition was doing, which is fantastic because we started doing things that no one else was doing, and we became known as the most innovative bureau out there. So, for instance, we started streaming videos before anyone else did on our website. We started doing our showcases. We started doing really incredible things. Not because we thought, you know, that's what everyone else is doing, that's what we should be doing, but we just didn't know. We just started experimenting with everything. We had no experience, and it was great. we can be as creative as we want to be. And you know what? We still are. We are trying new things all the time. We just launched such an exciting new division called our Celebrity Division. And so our core business is booking speakers for keynotes. So 60-minute talks all over the world. Then recently we launched our L&D division. So that's when we book our speakers to do training and workshops, seminars, multiple day, longer learning programs for our clients. And then most recently, we launched our celebrity division. That's when we book celebrities and other fascinating people for marketing initiatives, spokesperson, product endorsements, that type of thing. So we're still being completely creative. We're trying all different things, and I think that's what makes us stand out. And I think that is the mark of a true entrepreneur. And I never want to change. And I think that's what makes it so much fun. That's what, owning a business, I think, is all about. And I think really you can be entrepreneurial if you're working for a big company too. Think of yourself as your own business. And it's all about personal branding. And I think that you need to really shine where you are if you want to move ahead. Try new things, be creative within your own role, and allow yourself to do that.
And taking another one of your ways you told me to be a successful entrepreneur when we were speaking earlier is to take risk. The importance of taking risks.
Yes. Well, sometimes you just need to. I take risks all the time. Sometimes I really stand out for them. I remember early on in our career, really early, before I had anything, the one thing I had was all my plans, like my marketing plan, my business plan, my graphs, my charts. And I remember Dottie Walters was coming to Toronto. So Dottie Walters owned...
Now, at the time... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So Dottie Walters, at the time, owned a huge speakers bureau in the States. And so she was coming to Toronto to talk to speakers how they can market themselves. So this was, I think, in 94 and 95. And so I went to go see her speak. And then during the first break, I went up to her and I introduced myself and I told her that I'm about to launch Canada's biggest and best speakers bureau, and I'd love to show her my plans and my graphs, my charts. And she said that I can call her in California. It'd be $50 for 10 minutes, and she can give me some feedback. Well, I had no money, so there's no way. During the next break, what I did is I followed her into the washroom. I went into the stall next to hers, and I slid all my paperwork under the wall. And so, I got my feedback. She was trapped. And,
What kind of feedback did she give you there in the stall in the washroom?
Well, I couldn't get too much, but it was worthwhile. And I got noticed. No, it was great. It was really good.
So, and another one we've talked about was earlier was finding your strengths and weaknesses. The importance of knowing what your strengths are. Why is that?
Well, I think that's relevant to anyone, whether they want to own a business, choosing a career, anything in life. I think you have to understand what your strengths and weaknesses are. Marcus Buckingham is a speaker whom we work with, and I love him. He's amazing. You can watch his video on our website. He's great. Anyway, he talks about finding your strength. And, when Martin and I first started working together, first of all, working with your spouse brings up a lot of challenges. But also, when we first started the business, we were doing exactly the same thing, which isn't always healthy because it's a little bit redundant. But anyway, we're both doing the exact same thing, and which means we're both doing sales. And I remember I was working on 17 leads, and it was absolutely killing me. I hated doing the cold calls more than anything. And but I was working on 17 leads, and I was so proud of myself because I thought I was superwoman to be handling all these potential clients and recommending speakers. And so I thought, really, he should see how fantastic I am. So I said, you know what, Martin, I think we should have a meeting, go through our leads, and just see where we are. So he said, all right. So I went through my 17, which I was really struggling over and sweating over and dying over. And so I went through my 17 so he can see how phenomenal I am. And then he opened his drawer and started to go through his 92 leads. So on one hand, I was so excited. He was working on 92 leads. That is unbelievable. On the other hand, I was completely devastated because he seemed absolutely fine to be handling 92 leads. He seemed to even have spare time, and he seemed to be thriving. How can this be? I was like on the verge of a nervous breakdown handling these 17. A light bulb went off. I kind of realized sales was not for me. But we thought it should be. We couldn't figure it out because on one hand, it seemed like I had all the traits that was right for sales. I'm very passionate about what we do. I can talk to people. I can do the sales, but I hated it. So even though I had everything it took to be good in sales, it was actually a weakness because it was draining all the energy out of me. Meanwhile, in my spare time for fun, I was working on all of our marketing, all of our PR. Just for fun, I was doodling different ads. I was writing some press releases I thought maybe one day we'll send out just as a relaxing thing in my spare time. When we realized that I was terrible at sales, he said, "Can you please give me your database?" I'm like, "Well, yes, here." And so I gave him my database. I took over all the marketing, and all of a sudden we were on the front page of the Globe, the Star, where you probably saw us. We were on the National Post, we were on the news. All of a sudden we expanded our market. He was like this incredible salesperson we didn't realize. And to this day, he oversees all the sales. I oversee all the marketing. That was 15 years ago. We're still going strong. We're still married. Something's working. We still like each other. So it's so important to figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are, especially if you're married to your spouse and working together.
Well, it's time for a break, and I'd like to pick up on that note when we come back. Welcome back to Extraordinary Women. I'm Shannon Skinner, and I'm speaking with Farah Perelmuter. Really inspiring conversation, and I'm so grateful that you are here. And we were talking about, just before the break, about working with your spouse. Mm-hmm. Now, many people out there would not recommend it, mm-hmm. But you and Martin managed to make it work. What's the secret?
Okay, I have to be careful because he may be watching.
Hello, Martin.
Hello, Martin. Okay, first of all, I am also one of those people who don't recommend it, actually. Well, when it works, it's incredible. I mean, there's no way I can do this without Martin, for sure. And I couldn't imagine starting any business without him, really. For us, it's incredible. And I think when it works, it could be amazing. But I think most often it wouldn't work. And I'll tell you why. I assume that if there are issues in a marriage about communication, about spending, really any type of issue in a marriage, I believe it would become amplified within a business. When you have staff right in front of you, when you have big stakes involved, I think that it can be a very dangerous time to be working with your spouse and having this huge possible explosion happen. And also one thing that we used to struggle with, sometimes we still do, is ending the workday. So we sort of have this rule that we stop talking about work, when we get home, or 8 o'clock at night was our rule. We try not to work on the weekends. In the summer, we go up north on the weekends, and we're unplugged. So we have 2 little kids, and we have no telephone, no computer, no electronics, no TV. Like, we're really unplugged, nothing. And I find sometimes it's a challenge. And for us, it's worked for a number of reasons. First of all, when we started Speaker Spotlight, we both didn't know what we were doing. So if he had 10 years experience and I had none, it'd be pretty difficult for me. I feel like I was working for him. It probably wouldn't work out so well, and probably vice versa too. For other couples that might work. I think it's pretty complicated, and I think really you need to go back to what we were talking about before about finding your strengths. And for us, the most important thing was figuring out exactly what our roles are and keeping them very separate. So it's funny, our offices, every office we move into, our own personal offices are farther and farther apart. Sometimes we don't really speak that much during the day because our roles are so separate, but we are completely aligned in our vision. We work really well together when we're working on the business. We sometimes, we don't even have to speak because we know exactly what we're thinking and we're exactly on the same page, and we work really fast in the same way. And so in that way, we work really well together, and we completely trust each other's expertise, and we rely on each other, and we can depend on each other. And we really like each other. That really helps too.
It helps a lot.
It does.
For most people that I have talked to who started businesses with their spouse, will say it, they just like to tear their hair out.
Yeah, that's why I don't recommend
or some variation
of
that.
I can imagine that. And, we started off our marriage working together, so I don't even know what it's like to be married to him and not work together. So we're sort of unique in that way.
It grew organically.
It did.
Now, one of your other tips is in terms of service, differentiating yourself and then going beyond what is expected, or going beyond the norm. And so you do have this interesting story about Martin.
Right. Well, I find that a lot of businesses don't have extraordinary service. So I think with entrepreneurs, I think if they provide extraordinary service, they can really stand out from the crowd. So I remember early on, we always try to provide extraordinary service, but there's one story in particular that I think about all the time. It's so funny. Early on, we couldn't afford couriers, so Martin was our courier. At 4 o'clock, he'd hop on his bike and he would, hand out our packages, and which is good because we also couldn't afford a gym, so that was his exercise. But I remember this one time there was a package we had to get to a client, and this office was really far away, in the middle of nowhere. So we went in our car, we went together, and we got to the office, and it was surrounded by a fence, and it was like an industrial area, and the fence was locked. So I waited in the car, and Martin hopped over the fence, and he went to this compound, and the door was locked, and he ran around, and he found a door that was open. So, we just really felt we had to get this package to the client that day. It's all about service. So he found this door that was unlocked. He went inside. He told me how he went through all these hallways, and he finally found this person's door. He left with the door. He walked through all the hallways again. He found a different door. He opened the door. All of a sudden, all the alarms start going. And so he raced out back to the fence. He hopped over the fence. I see him running towards me. He's like, start the car, start the car. So I start the car. He jumps in. We're going down this dirt road. We see the police coming towards us. I'm like, oh my God, we're going to get arrested. Don't tell anyone about this, but we got away. But all for the sake of customer service. We got the job. They hired our speaker. We never told them that the police were after us. But, we got the client.
Do you think your mug shots are up in the police wall somewhere?
Does anyone recognize this face?
That's a classic story.
Yeah, it's all for Speaker Spotlight.
But it is a good example of what it takes. When you are running your own business, and I know this myself, I have my own business as well, and there are times when you really have to go beyond what you thought that, you think I maybe didn't sign up for this, and you need to go beyond.
You do.
But that's a great example of really doing that.
Really doing that. So my advice is don't get arrested. But, go the extra mile. Let your clients know that you care. And, just in small ways. I'll tell you something else we do for our clients. Whenever they book a speaker, we thank them in, I think, a touching way. So we have set up a scholarship fund through Pathways to Education. And whenever we book a speaker, we donate funds to this scholarship fund on behalf of our client. So we'll send them a thank you note saying, thank you for booking our speaker. We're donating to our scholarship fund on your behalf. So we'll do that, or we'll send a donation, a loan to kiva.org, and that is an organization that helps entrepreneurs in third world countries. We'll do that on our client's behalf. So we're always doing something to, it feels great, but it's just going the extra mile, doing things that feel right, and making you, set apart from the competition. A lot of businesses are very lazy. It's very easy to go that extra mile and get noticed.
Now, one other tip that you have is the importance of being nice to everyone. This is something you learned from somebody very important in your life early on.
My mom. So my mom told me this from as early as I can remember. I guess she was talking in terms of bullying. And just as a little girl, she said, Farah, always be nice to everyone. And it's so simplistic, and it seems like, you know, something you'd hear but not pay attention to, or it seems perhaps it's only for the playground. And really, I've always remembered that, and I hope everyone thinks that I'm nice. And I've realized that in business, too, it's just so important to be nice. And it's really, I believe, not necessary to be ruthless and mean in business to get ahead. I think that's another way that we've really grown as a business. I think that people genuinely like us. I know they like our staff. And I think that we've really risen to the top because we're just nice people. I think our clients, our speakers can tell we care about them. We're passionate about what we do, but we're nice. And I think that it's really important to be nice to everyone, whether it's someone who is your highest potential client, your most important supplier, or someone at the checkout counter. It's just, you need to be authentic, and hopefully you really are a nice person, and it's just important to let people see it.
Something that's, you know, critical in business, particularly as an entrepreneur, is, and in any business, even if it's a corporation, is relationship building. Relationships are critical.
Absolutely. Well, it's everything. It's interesting. Yesterday, I was with a few of our speakers. Mitch Joel, who is a social media expert, phenomenal. Simon Sinek, also one of the best business speakers I've ever seen. Love him. And Malcolm Gladwell. I'm sure everyone knows who Malcolm is. And so they were discussing social media and how you can build relationships in social media. And it was so fascinating because it became like a heated debate. And so Mitch, who is a social media expert, was talking about the importance of social media, which I totally agree with. But then Simon and Malcolm were talking about how you really can't build meaningful relationships on the internet, because Simon is saying the one thing that you can't build is trust. So you need that face-to-face time with someone in order to build that relationship. So I think this whole social media world is so interesting. I think entrepreneurs, really anyone in business, must get on board on the social media train. I mean, the rocket. It's the Wild West out there with social media, but we need to get on board. We need to learn how to use it properly, because it could be a very dangerous thing if not used correctly. But it's very important in building relationships, and in business, relationships is everything. That's why it's important to be nice, important to be authentic, and important to connect. And with the web, with social media, it's possible to connect with, thousands with a click. But that meaningful relationship, really, that comes down to one-on-one. It's that personal relationship, and that's how you grow it. So it's interesting, that combination, the personal relationship and the internet. But I would like to think that the personal, real live events will never go away, because I need to keep booking speakers.
Well, it's time for a break, and when we come back, more tips on how to be a successful entrepreneur. Welcome back to Extraordinary Women. I'm Shannon Skinner, and I'm speaking with Farah Perelmuter, and we're talking about how to be a successful entrepreneur, which is something you know a lot about, given the success of Speaker Spotlight, and your international coverage and your multi awards. One of the things we talked about was having the importance of having vision. Right. And you've mentioned that in our chat during the break, that it's really important to be true to your vision and know when to say no and not to go off tangents.
Mm-hmm. In my own experience, you know, I saw exactly where I wanted to go. And sometimes certain opportunities came our way that were really appealing. And, you know, part of me really wanted to go for it, but I knew it would take me off track. And so we had to say no. And I'm so grateful that I did, because it would have taken me on a different course, and I wouldn't have ended up where I am. And I think that when going for your goal, you need to stay true to that goal, and you have to really learn to say no to other opportunities, even if they seem fantastic. If you know truly where you want to go, then you have to say no. That's my new mantra.
And so how would you necessarily know if it's going to be something that really takes you off your tangent, if it seems like it's going to work, or maybe perhaps you can connect the dots, but how would you necessarily know before you embark on going down another tangent?
Well, first of all, if it's unrelated. I mean, some opportunities are just so exciting, you want to do it, but if it has nothing to do with your goal, if it has nothing to do with your goal, then why are you wasting your time? If it is related, but it takes up too much of your time, is it really necessary? You know, you just have to weigh the pros and the cons. And, you know, time is a very valuable resource. You know, if it doesn't help you get to exactly where you want to be and it takes you away from that goal, you just have to, you know, decide if it's really worth it.
And what about another tip is, of course, maintaining the work-life balance. And this is something you know a lot about.
Oh, you know, I'm often asked about it, and you know, sometimes I think I'm really the worst person to ask, because I am, and I have been struggling with this for so long, especially since having kids.
And how old are your kids?
Our daughter Jade is 10, and Cole is about to turn 8. So I've been struggling with this for 10 years. And you think I'd have it figured out by now, but I don't, really. But then I think maybe I am the perfect person to ask, because I've been talking about it and researching it and trying to figure it out for so long. And some things I've come to figure out. So one thing I think is, first of all, we should not judge each other. So sometimes I hear women saying, wow, she works full time? Like, how come she never goes to the kids' school functions? Or she's a full-time at-home mom. What does she do all day? You know, like, we have to get away from that. We should not judge each other. So that's the first thing. The second thing, probably most important, is we need to figure out what our priorities are. So once we know what it is that we need to then build our life around that. We need to also figure out the logistics that can make that happen. So what is possible? So for instance, do you need to work full-time? Like, is that a reality? If so, if you have children, what type of childcare is needed? So what are the logistics around that? On the weekends, can you be with your kids? You know, you need to look at your life as a whole, not just your business. So when I'm talking about work-life balance, you need to, when you have your vision of what you want your business to look like, I really strongly believe you need to look at your whole life. So, you know, my mistake when I was that teenager, and, you know, I can't fault myself, but I had that vision of the business, but I also had this other vision of having one baby in my arms and another baby playing on the ground. And, you know, years later, I actually had that reality. I was so fortunate to have that reality. But I never really thought about having those two visions at the same time. And that's where things got really difficult for me, because I couldn't have them both and have them both 100%. So the other thing about having balance is you need to realize Superwoman does not exist. I don't think so. You cannot be 100% the phenomenal mom, or the one that I thought I wanted to be, and that businesswoman that I thought I wanted to be. So you need to have that priority, and you need to realize you can't be everything all at once at the same time. So for me, I know my priority is my kids, and I know that while they still want me to tuck them in at bedtime and be with me, I'm going to be there. I don't want to miss those little snuggles at night. And I know all those, fabulous parties and events I'm saying no to, they'll still be there a little bit later when my kids are a bit older. So, I need to say no to them now. And it's so hard, and it's so hard for so many moms and women who don't have children. They need to take care of themselves too. Speaking of which, that's another point about balance. We need to take care of ourselves physically, emotionally, on all levels. I'm going to do yoga tomorrow, I promise. It's so hard to fit everything in. So I actually recently wrote a blog about it. I have 7 different points about achieving balance. It's on my website. And
where could people find that? It's
www.speakers.ca. So I also wrote another blog about having that vision, about life and about finding balance. And yeah, I invite viewers to take a look at those blogs, and it's interesting.
Now, what about, a last point, giving back? I mean, once an entrepreneur has managed to break even and hopefully start earning some income, what's the importance of giving back?
Well, you know what? I think as entrepreneurs, we have an incredible opportunity to make a difference in the world. We can do it in ways that are, may not take a lot of money, but can actually impact someone's life. So, for instance, with us, our very first showcase really didn't cost us that much money. Our speakers donated their time, and we had someone donate the design and printing costs of our invitation. Now, with digital media, it's so much easier. It's practically free. And we just had to pay for the venue and some other costs. And so it wasn't very much to pay for, and we raised a lot of money. And so now we continue with our showcases. We do them across the country, and we raise thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for charities. So for our business, it's fantastic. I mean, now our costs have gone up a lot, but still our speakers donate their time, and we only ask our clients for voluntary donations. But I think with all business owners, they can think of ways that they can contribute to their community or, the world in ways that are very low cost for those who have even not yet broken even, but can make huge impacts. I think that, as entrepreneurs are creative. We can think of ways that we can truly make a difference.
And one of the things you've done is making a difference in Kenya.
Yes, we have partnered with Free the Children. We actually represent Mark and Craig and Kilberger.
Couple great guys.
I love them. They're amazing. So we've adopted a village there, and we've built a schoolhouse and a well, and we provide a lunch program for our kids there. And now we're helping to build a mobile medical unit, and we've done some other things there. But it's fantastic. I can't wait to go with our kids and have them meet our kids there and help build another school. And it's amazing. It feels fantastic. And that's what we're most proud of, the Speaker Spotlight, how we've actually changed lives through our fundraising and our giving back, as well as through the speeches.
And you're doing some fundraising for Pathways to Education, is that it?
Yeah, that is our scholarship fund that we have created through Pathways to Education. And that is an organization that has first started here in Toronto area and has now being spread across Canada. And they are an incredible organization. I'm so proud to be a part of them. And they help Canadian youth get to school, stay in high school, and then go beyond to secondary school through mentorship and other programs. And their results have been extraordinary. So our scholarship fund will help Canadian youth stay in school.
So inspiring. So what's next for you?
Well, I have a vision. I have a vision I'm working towards. Well, there's lots coming up. We are working with such incredible speakers. I'm inspired every day. We're so lucky we get to learn from the best. And we can never be in a bad mood. We have motivational speakers everywhere. And I'm excited about our new divisions, the L&D and the Celebrity Division. And but really, I'm a mom to my kids and a wife. And I'm just trying to figure out how to have it all.
And it's quite possible, because I think you are a good example of that.
Oh, thank you.
So it's been really an inspiring hour. I am so grateful that you've been here to speak with me and share some of your secrets and tips with my audience. Again, if somebody wanted to find out more information about you, about Speaker Spotlight, where should they go?
Well, they can go to our website, www.speakers.ca. They can follow me on Twitter at Farah Speakers. And we also have a Speaker Spotlight Facebook fan page, so they can like us.
They can like you on Facebook.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thanks again, and I hope that we can do this again very soon, and I wish you all the best.
Thanks, Shannon.
For more information about upcoming shows or to contact me, please visit my website at extraordinarywomentv.com. A special thank you to my friends and family for your ongoing support, and to the folks at that channel. Well, if you are interested in transforming your life, I hope the stories inspired you. You've been watching Extraordinary Women on thatchannel.com. I'm Shannon Skinner. See you soon.